to go on Etincelle Talk Show, the page, the main page. There's not another one in case they're trying to, you know, pirate or whatever. That is the one. We are also on Instagram, we're on TikTok, but mainly live stream on YouTube. Please share this live as much as you can, because we're trying to enlarge our people, you know, enlarge the followers, the people who are really following us. So you never know really who is on your phone that needs really this information. So please share it on your statues and things like that, so that it can help really to enlarge the view of tonight's talk show. All right, so I'm going to give you a short little break. When we come back, I'm going to introduce her. Let's go. De retour, you know, I am a French speaker, but also, you know, bilingual. So welcome back on our show Etincelle. Thank you so much, and I really wanted to greet actually also all the sponsors behind Etincelle Talk Show, which is Obligé TV Network. We have Apostolic Mylene Mudiay, who is behind this, and also Milia. And thank you so much for all supporting Etincelle Talk Show. Voilà, my guest of tonight, she is like a model, right? Oh. Beautiful, okay. Glowing, melanin, and she is clever. She's not just clever, she has a lot of potential. And I actually wanted to list, listen, she has a lot of points to, you know, to détailler, comment dire, put in details, you know, digital marketing, you know, worker. She's an influencer. Listen, she probably sings. Maybe I don't even know, but I'll give you. I'll give you the opportunity, please. I know you, but my guests do not know you. Introduce yourself.
Oh, of course. So my name is Ama Okobeya Aburam Bullens. I am Ghanaian, raised in France and Switzerland, and now living in London with my wonderful husband.
Yes.
And yes, we've been in London for what, 7 years now.
That's a long time.
It's a long time. I'm a Londoner, innit?
Oh, I hear that. Yeah. You know, a lot of people do tell me that. I was like, why do you guys always say innit? But unfortunately, this is, as soon as you're in here, you need to just gain the flow.
Yeah, exactly. You need to pick it up.
Right.
So I've done a lot in my career. I always wanted to work in fashion, which is one of the main reasons we came to London. My husband is also a creative, so we wanted to be in a creative space.
Yeah.
And coming to London, I started to learn about the industry. I worked for different brands. And just before arriving, I watched a documentary called The True Cost, which was about fast fashion. So at that time, I didn't really know what the impact of the fashion industry was. I just thought I was going to watch a documentary and walk away, because that's what we all do.
Oh my God, what happened?
Like, oh, I'm sad, this is terrible, and you walk away. But something convicted me. I felt like, wow, this is a space that I love so much, and how could something that I love so much cause so much harm to people, but also to this wonderful planet, this gift of an earth that, you know, I feel like God has gifted us.
Yeah.
And I felt so convicted to then change my ways when it comes to the way I express my style. And I came to understand that there was a different way to live, and that's where sustainability came into my vocabulary.
Yeah.
Ethical fashion. So yeah, I've been doing a mix of that. So ethical fashion, writing with my magazine, Style and Sustain, and then also working in digital marketing for Business of Fashion, which is a digital media in the fashion industry. So that's a bit of my journey.
That is a long journey just put together in just in a second. Right, so I'm just gonna list her out even more than she's already said. Right, she's a writer, she's a digital creator with a passion for fashion, as she just mentioned. I mean, I can literally see you glowing as you're speaking. With lots of passion for fashion, as I said, sustainable fashion. Let's point it, because there's fashion and there's different kinds of fashion in the world. If you enter in this world, you'll be kind of bit lost if you don't understand exactly what's happening. She's an influencer, as I mentioned, but she works full-time as a digital marketing with the fashion industry, and she runs the styles and sustain for as a platform to be able to inspire people to bring positive change. And this is what I like to hear, positive change, because Etincelle is all about coming from somewhere and going somewhere. This is the goal of Etincelle, and it means that in between the road that you're taking, you're basically changing, and you're changing not for the negative, but you're actually changing for the positive. Be able to come out of wherever it was blurry, wherever it wasn't really, and having that thing, right? Yeah. So talking about Amma, who is really, really Amma? If I have to call your dad right now, what do you think your mom and dad would tell me about you?
They'll be like, Okobea.
Hey!
That's me. So that is my middle name. A lot of people think it's my last name, but it's my middle name. Yeah. And I learned quite young that it meant warrior woman. Oh. So I always felt that I have this strength, and sometimes I was afraid of it, because I thought, I don't want to be warring. Okay. I need peace.
I hear that.
I need soft life.
Yes, it's true.
But also, through my life journey, I realized that, I am a warrior. There's a lot of challenges that have come my way, and I've been able to go through them, fight through them, but also I've had an army around me. I feel like I'm able to pull people around me that are able to accompany me and fight with me. And also I've always known I'm not alone, because, God has been with me since I was 9 when I encountered Jesus. So that always felt like I've always had an army. Yeah. And when I was a little girl, I used to pray at night, every night, and I would say, God, send all your angels to come and protect us. And I kid you not, I feel like I could see them. Oh, wow. Around my room and around me.
So you've always been a little bit spiritual like that?
Oh, yeah. Since I was 9. And I think that's a result of, when I was very young, before the age of 10, I lost both of my parents.
Oh, wow.
So sorry. My mom and then my dad and then my aunt adopted me. That's how I came to Europe, into Switzerland. So yeah, very early on, the warrior mode was on. And I felt like
it's like, hey,
my parents,
my goodness,
okay, she's gonna have to
stand up for herself.
Yeah, stand up for herself in life. And now I wear that name with so much pride.
Absolutely.
And knowing where it comes from. And where I'm from. So I would say that is kind of the core.
Yeah.
I think names
the
are
main
important.
thing.
Yeah. Names are important.
I believe name speaks volume.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're carrying. Yeah. Until you actually, a lot of people do not even know the meaning of their names.
Which I'm always surprised by. Because I'm like, no, you need to know.
You need to know.
Because there's something behind your purpose.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So now, knowing who you are, the strength you're carrying, when did fashion step into your life and you're like, you know what, I'm taking it forward? Although you saw, what you just say, what's it called, the documentary, and you were inspired, but don't you think that somehow maybe back in the day you would love to dress up, girls, in your age?
Absolutely. I have a memory of me in Accra, wearing my mom's shoes. When you're a little girl and you just put on
exactly
the clothes and they're too big for you.
Absolutely.
And you're just kind of walking around with them. My aunt was a seamstress, so I have memories sitting behind the sewing machine, just kind of curious about it. And so I think it's always been there a little bit.
Somehow.
And then as I grew older and then came to Europe, I felt pulled to the industry.
Yeah.
I think it started with magazines
Yeah.
and I guess shows, you know, things that you see and you're like, oh, people are dressed nice. Like, I really like that. And I started to sketch my own clothes.
You started drawing?
Yeah, I started drawing. I always drew. So since I was a little girl, that's also something I always drew. So I would sketch and copy things and I was really good at them.
Yeah.
And then I started drawing clothes and I was like, oh, I'm going to have my brand one day. I was like,
someone was dreaming big.
So that stepped in. And then eventually, you know, I went to school, but I didn't study fashion. Like, I don't know.
That is weird. Why is it? How comes?
I think it didn't feel practical for some reason. It was like, oh, is this impractical? What am I going to do? Like launch a line?
Well,
which I could have now that I think about it. But instead, I went to study business and communication.
Was it maybe a way for you to be real? It's like you're waking up to this world. You're like, wait a second, let's
Growing
have
up, it's like, okay,
the
sketches are cute, but what do I actually need to make it in this world? And you know, my mom was also quite ambitious, and she was kind of like, you know, like business is safe. As African parents do, like the safety is number one. So ended up doing that. But eventually I got to fashion because I think it was always there. And I got to it once we got to London. Yeah. And I started kind of looking at brands I could work with. And actually, even before that, my first job was in retail. I actually forgot that.
That is something that definitely played a part.
Yeah, I worked in retail and I worked for a brand where I helped on a management team to launch 2 different stores around France.
That's lovely.
So that's where also my addiction to fashion started. So I was like, ugh.
Slowly.
I get a discount. I'm going to buy this and that every week, every day. Like, it was
lovely.
Constantly. Like, and I was
shopaholic.
I was young. Yeah, exactly. I was like, I had the money to be doing that. But I was like, let me, you know, I just got this addiction and this passion that came in. But yeah, slowly, once I watched the documentary, all of that changed. Yeah. And I felt a shift and I felt like I was called to do better. Especially in the space that I felt I have so much love for. Yeah. Yeah. So
the world and I is the topic of today. And when we talk about the world, it means so much. It's too large. I mean, I don't know how many people are in this world. So we can't even count them really like that. But, you know, 2 billion and probably more. So how do you fit in really in all that? You know, the world and question. How do you, I feel like a lot of people easily can get lost, not knowing exactly who they are, especially when it comes to purpose. So where do you fit in all this?
That's beautiful. I feel like recently, it's funny because I sent a voice note to some friends and I was just really happy with my new job and things are going amazingly. And I've been through this incredible healing journey that you were very much a part of. And I said on the voice note, I was like, I'm God's favorite. Like, I just said that.
Wow.
And I was like, you know, everyone's God's favorite, but I'm God's favorite. And I really felt it. And I felt the overwhelming love. And in those moments, I think, you know, it doesn't become, you know, the world versus I. It's like, I'm not alone, you know, because like God sees me and I'm like his favorite. And it's funny because a few days later I was like, oh, was I a bit arrogant? You know, my friend's thinking, oh, who does she think she is? And then another friend who I haven't spoken to in years, she sends me a message on a photo and she's like, oh my gosh, you look amazing. What is this glow? Okay, God's favorite. And there was no way she would have known I had that conversation.
Oh, wow.
Or that I was doubting and thinking like, oh, was it too much? And I feel like in that moment, God was like, nah, girl.
No, that's not too much. It just,
Yeah. Sorry, I got excited. It's not too much. Like, that's how I see you. So then I think when it comes to the world and I just feel this sense of purpose, like I'm known and seen because of God.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I might need some water.
Yeah. Can we give a short little break and we're coming back in just in a minute? Yes. think my guest was a bit too excited.
Too excited.
Yeah. Are you breathing right now?
I'm back.
All right. So we are back on track. When it comes to you, figure out that you are God's favorite.
Yes. I know, right? It sounds so crazy when you say it as well.
No, but it's amazing how like some people can really carry certain things, with boldness and walk with it. Because some people they need to lean on some people.
Yeah.
But you're figuring out yourself. You're like, this is who I am.
Yeah.
I'm walking with it.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's what it's been, especially in the past few months and everything. So, but yeah, like you said, the world is a big place. And
yes.
I think it's easy to get lost, and I've certainly felt lost at many moments. But I think we can all find a space, and we're all built differently. So, I think having the right people around you is important to feel connected and to not feel alone or lost in the world. And I think when it comes to my work, it's a lot about aligning with people who have a similar mindset. So the great thing about London is that there's so many people in fashion and sustainability who want to create a better fashion industry, who are like, it can be better.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have to do things the wrong way. And I think meeting those people as well gives a sense of purpose and a sense of meaning to what I'm doing and what I want to do. So yeah, it's not just.
Do you think that you finally have found your purpose in life?
Oh wow, that's such a good question. I think I definitely feel aligned with my path. I don't know if purpose is like an end goal. I don't think it is. I think purpose is who you are. I think purpose is in the fact that we're here and we're created. And we literally have the breath of God in us. I'm done. I'm like, okay, that's like sometimes it's so hard because it's like we have to find it. But I think that's a cultural thing, because I heard that in other cultures, non-Western cultures, they believe that purpose is just being. That
wow, this is a different way of thinking. Okay,
you're like the flowers, and you're like the mountain, and you're like everything that's around, like nature, basically.
Yeah.
So you exist. And that is enough. And I think I kind of align with that. And I think, the purpose is that I'm here and I have the breath of God. That's
all you need.
Yeah, and then the rest of it is aligning. It's just making sure that I am aligned with God, so that I can make sure I'm living out whatever was written about me before I got here. I think, But I think I do believe that.
Yeah.
I do believe that there's a special book about me. And that
written somewhere.
Yeah, and and it's there, and I can actually tap in and like align myself with that.
Yeah.
So that gives me comfort.
That's lovely.
That gives me a lot of comfort.
It's just to know that you know exactly what you know. Let's just say that. You know what? A lot of people find themselves, like I said just now, the world and you can easily feel lost if you don't have anyone, if you feel like, people have abandoned you and so forth. So it's amazing to find yourself, what's it called? Found.
Oh, yeah.
And and then not 100%, but somehow that exactly, not exactly, but where you're going. You have this light that is shining upon you that is helping you to still walking.
Absolutely.
And when you don't have that, somehow it can really place this doubt in you. Doubt create fear and so forth and so forth. So when it comes to fashion, how would you describe really this fashion that has been changing? I feel like there's no balance really when it comes to fashion. I've seen fashion changing, decade after decade after decade. So how do you find yourself into it, and especially of what you're doing today?
I mean, the thing to know about the fashion industry is that it's accelerated. Like, it's going faster than ever before. And when I say faster than ever before, is that as people, as humans, we're creating so many clothes all the time. So there's a number that came out that said there are 100 billion clothes produced every year.
100, huh?
Billion.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh, no. It's, and how many people are there on the planet? 8 billion, approximately. So just picture that and think of the fact that who are we making this for and where is it going? And the change that's happened in the fashion industry is that we lived at a time back in the day, maybe 30, 40, 50 years ago, where you could see seasons.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, there's a collection for summer and there's a collection for autumn. Now there's over 50 seasons a year.
My God.
And that's everything of all the brands you know. And it's not even the brands around the world. Each of the brands that you know are creating over 50 collections every single year. So the thing about fashion is that it's going so fast. And it's no longer a supply and demand thing. Because the way the world is structured, we're told, well, people want things and we give it to them, right? That's supply and demand. But now we're in a world where we don't necessarily ask for things, but they're just produced and
it's right on your face. Yes.
And we can even say shoved, like pushed onto you, like, oh, well, you need it. Which iPhone came out recently.
Especially when it comes to the trends.
Yeah, exactly. So it's created an unnecessary need for a lot of us. And I think for a lot of young girls as well. I think it's interesting talking about purpose because I feel like as women, we are educated and socialized to see clothes as part of our identity, right? It's like, yeah, you're a woman, you dress good, you look good. Like,
you need to...
Yeah, which is a beautiful thing. I think that should never change. But what it's done on the flip side is that we have this craving for clothes. Think about the men in your life. They're not the same when it comes to clothes. Like you always see the woman with like the 100 shoes in their closet. The guy has like 5 pairs of shoes.
There are. Let's just be honest. There are definitely men out there.
Yes,
who they cannot live with that. Ooh.
These days, there are women out there that do the same. I won't put it on women. Yeah. But yeah, we've just grown to consume a lot of clothes. And so the flip side of that is what we call fast fashion. So fast fashion is the acceleration. Yeah. But now it's also in the luxury industry where they've also, to match fast fashion, they've also decided to produce quite a lot. Which
we're talking about maybe what's it called? Chanel, Louis Vuitton, and all this high-end.
Yeah, they've also started to accelerate. Although they produce a bit better, they're still...
Better quality?
Slightly.
Yeah,
slightly.
Yeah.
It's not that much better sometimes. So what that does is that we live in a world where the production of clothes are outsourced. So this is often happening in India, in North Africa. They're making our clothes, right? And what happens there is that brands will outsource the production, but when they outsource the production, they put a lot of pressure on factories to make clothes very fast. So what happens then is that people are working ungodly hours under terrible conditions, and one of the biggest industry incidents that happened is called Rana Plaza. And in 2013, basically in Bangladesh, a factory collapsed and killed over 1,000 people working there.
Are you hearing this?
Yeah, and they were working for the brands that we know, the H&Ms, the Primarks. The labels came out. And what happened that day is the workers said, there's something wrong with the building. Like, we don't feel safe. But because of the pressure to produce more clothes, the factory owner said, well, you're still going to work today. It doesn't matter if it's not safe, you're going to work. And then the factory collapsed. And that's one of the biggest incidents that's happened in the fashion industry. And that's what started what we call today fashion revolution. Yeah. So people said, no, I mean, these are just clothes. No one should die for clothes. We like it, but come on, like no life is worth, someone dying just for us to buy something cheap, right? So then that started a whole movement, which I then found out watching the documentary, and I said to myself, listen, like I also want to make a difference within an industry that I love. And aside from that, there's an environmental impact. So because we produce so many clothes, a lot of it gets thrown away. Actually, a lot of it ends up in African countries. Yeah. So for example, in Ghana, there is over 500 tons of clothes sent from just the UK into Accra. It ends up... I think that's yearly. Oh, actually, it's 15 million clothes that land in Kantamanto Market in Accra on a yearly basis. And this is secondhand clothes or clothes that people just throw away. And what happens
like charities and...
Yeah, they think it's charity, but, it ends up there. It's not great quality. People try to sell it, but a lot of it end up in landfill. So bins, mountains of clothes on the beaches. I go to Accra. standing on the beach and there's, H&M top
My
coming out of the
goodness.
water because that's what's happening in the industry. So there's also that side of it. And of course, there's a production process as well that is detrimental to the environment. Like the dye in blue jeans is extremely detrimental to water, for example. So there's so many things about the industry that we don't get told. We see a lot of the glitz and glamour and the fashion weeks and how cool it is.
Yeah.
But, fashion is still something that has an impact. And I think we can all make a difference by changing our habits, but also by educating ourselves and understanding like who we can hold accountable, who we can say, I don't agree with what you're doing and how you're producing. Like, I want you to do better, because they care the most about the people who buy the clothes.
Do you think the media is responsible also for,
marketing? I mean, I work in marketing, so I'm like,
yes,
I know, because we push the clothes onto people. We like, every trend that comes out is advertised as, you need this, you need this top, you need this jacket, you need this right now. You need to be on trend, social media, influencers as well. So I was in the influencer space and decided to change. And I said, okay, I'm going to be a different influencer. I'm going to try to inform and educate people so that they learn how to consume or wear clothes in a responsible way, in a kind way. And then that's also why I turned it into a magazine, because I wanted it to be an educational space. Okay. And not just an influencer. Yeah, just showing clothes. I wanted it to be an educational space, and I wanted to center conversations around us, like the global south, and how we bring solution to the fashion industry. Yeah. So now how do you step in when it comes to because for what we've seen on media, social media, as yourself, you work in the media, the youth, especially the youth, is really, changing. How am I going to explain this? A young girl, I'll say a 14 years old girl, wants to look 21, and she can do because of her clothing, because of how she's putting out there. So what is your view on this when in terms of fashion, or someone who educates fashion? Because we have different kinds of religion out here. The Muslims, we have the Christian, we have Buddha and so forth, but you as a Christian, how do you feel about it? Does it make you angry? Like, how do you? I don't think it makes me angry, but I think it always pulls me back to the idea of kind of valuing ourselves and valuing the things that we own as well. I think when I think about sustainability and the impact of the industry on the environment or on people, I think of the fact that we have a responsibility to take care of this planet, right? And I think that is something that God is very clear about. It's like, the earth is yours. You're going to work in it. And you've named the animals. Like, this is your domain, and this is a place for you to take care of, I think. And I think when we do things that harm the earth or that harms us in turn, then we're kind of going against that. It's like, why are we letting go of our responsibility of actually taking care of the planet? When it comes to young girls and women and the fashion industry, I think it's a lot of pressure. I think it's a lot of pressure to look a certain way, to be a certain way. And I think you lose yourself in that. You do. You really do. And, and then you have the celebrities and the Kardashians and the Botox, and all of these things come into play, and you feel like, oh, I have to look a certain way. And we all fall for that, right? And I think the younger you are, the more it has an impact on you. I see girls that are like maybe half my age, and I feel like they look older than me. And sometimes I'm like, wow. And that's just like the makeup and the style, and it feels like they feel like they need to grow up quickly, or their value lies within the way they look. And that's like their what they have to offer the world. And I think that's difficult. And I think that's where, if sustainability comes in, there's a mindfulness. It's like, you're not just wearing things for the sake of wearing them. Wearing them. You're thinking about what you're choosing, right? Because you're trying to maybe buy less. So you're thinking, okay, let me find something that really suits me, that I can keep for a long time, right? Let me find something that I can even maybe share with my friends, and it could be more of a community thing that we share our clothes, for example, I think it can give you confidence to own your style.
Absolutely.
Instead of following trends. And that's the thing that needs to come in. It's like everyone can follow a trend, but true style is from who you are as a person. So I think that's where those sustainability can be useful, because there's mindfulness about it. But actually, a lot of research shows that the younger generation, they're very mindful of what's happening in the world. Oh,
really?
Yeah, when it comes to sustainability, when it comes to like climate change, they're actually quite mindful. So they're the ones that go a lot for secondhand, and they try to look for things that are not going to fast fashion, for example. So there's a change there slowly, because they sadly were born into the world where everyone is like, okay, the planet, emissions, we need to be careful. They're stressed. Those poor kids are stressed. So they're sometimes they're a bit more mindful, actually, than most people.
Talking about mindful and education, actually I did some research and bumped into this page talking about how, I mean, that was back in the day, that fashion used to be the second largest industry when it comes to pollution. But now it has changed, has gone down actually to number 7 or number 6, number 7. What is your point about that? That's one. 2, it says that what's it called? Waste, cheap material, manufacturing, local, water consuming, and transportation. Because what I read was, it really blew my mind, and I was just like, oh my God, 2.5% of the transport
is fashion.
Just in the whole wide world, and I was just like, oh my God. So what do you say, especially someone who is working in this environment? What's your point when it comes to that?
I think educating yourself is really good. I mean, like you said, you read things and you're like, oh wow, I didn't know that. Because what the fashion industry is very good at is hiding behind glitz and glamour and things that look good, right? But if you pull the curtain, you suddenly realize,
see something else.
It's not that pretty. If you pull the curtain, you see a factory where someone's making your clothes. It's not pretty. You pull the curtain, on a beach in Accra with clothes everywhere, wasting and polluting the beach. It's not pretty. We even there's oil-based materials. Polyester is an oil-based material. So that means that the gas industry is involved in fashion. The oil industry, is involved in fashion. So when they're pumping oil from the earth, some of that goes into creating clothing items, so specifically polyester. Polyester is also not the best fabric. It's also not great on your skin. They've done research on certain brands where they've taken samples of the clothes, and they're like, oh, there are some cancer-inducing chemicals in these clothes.
My goodness, yes.
Because you're wearing oils and plastic and things that are not necessarily good for your skin, as well. So back to your question, which was, the environmental impact, basically. So it's really about the excess. It's really about the excess, because we do need clothes, right? And no one's gonna say
certain way.
No one's gonna say let's stop. Let's stop making clothes. But it's about changing the way that we make them. And you talked about water pollution. That's what I was saying about jeans, for example. There's a city in China, at least I read this back in the day, where the waterways are just blue. But it's because of the denim dye that's used, and the denim dye is very chemical based, and that then pollutes waterways for locals who drink the water, and that's just coming from a factory producing denim, for example. So that happens as well. And then there's the oil industry, as I mentioned, and then there's the fact that it gets thrown away. So people think, let's go to a charity shop and let me give something to a charity shop. It's good, but about only 10% of what's donated in a charity shop ends up being sold. So what happens is
because people still coming in and buy, actually.
People still buy, but there's so much now because there's too much. Again, it's the excess issue, right? It's there's so much of it that now if it doesn't sell in the charity shop, it goes around different charity shops, and if it doesn't sell, it gets shipped to Africa, which is what I was saying. So then it gets shipped there, and even there is too much, and people can't handle it. So then that's where the pollution happens on that side as well. So it's a tricky industry, but there's hope, because I want to talk about
Yeah.
You know,
let's talk about hope after.
yes, okay.
Yes, let's bring hope. You know, because like there's
Yeah,
always
I
a
need
two
to-
side of the story.
Exactly.
And the same way how you can use the knife to, you know, to cook or anything like that, you can also use the knife to kill,
To harm
right?
someone,
And I feel like where you're stepping in, or where you are right now, is like it's opening your eyes of what is really the fashion industry. Now my question is, after this enlightenment that you receive and you sow in your eyes, oh my God, my people are basically dying, as the Bible will say, my people are perishing lack of
knowledge.
Exactly, right?
Yes.
So how did you start living your life according to the enlightenment
change
that you know you received? Like how?
Yeah, so honestly, I was quite dramatic. I ended up not shopping for 3 months.
Wow.
Like, I was like, no, this is... And the thing is, I recommend the documentary, The True Cost, Andrew Morgan, because there was a girl in that documentary, and she was maybe my age at that time.
Yeah.
And so she was spending her life working in a factory. She had kids that she would never see because she had to walk to work, and she would spend the whole day there. As women, they face harassment in the workplace because there's men there, and they just feel like, oh, let me take advantage of this situation. And I just watched this girl, and I was like, that could be me. And all she's doing is making clothes. All she's doing is making a top for Zara or H&M. Why does her life have to be that way? So I remember I couldn't get that girl out of my mind, because I was like, no, I can't. I felt so much empathy. I felt so moved by her story that because I had her in my mind, I couldn't bring myself to walk into a shop anymore. Like, just go to H&M like I used to, or like just buy anything. Wow. I really physically didn't feel like I could do it anymore. So, and I think, you know, now with hindsight and thinking about it, I do think that's part of my purpose. I think we're all put into the spaces we're put into to hopefully bring light and change into that space. So for me, having that realization, I felt like, okay, I could make a difference, you know, and I could be the difference in that girl's life. Yeah. And my favorite thing about what I do with my magazine and when it was a blog is people telling me, oh, you changed my perspective about fashion. I didn't know that this was happening. I didn't know. And that, you know, I could maybe do it differently, that I didn't have to shop the way I shop. And for me, that's the biggest impact, and that's the most important thing. So yeah, I stopped shopping for 3 months, and then I was like, okay. I started going through my clothes, and I realized there's so many things I don't wear and I haven't worn, and I could honestly clothe an entire village if I wanted to with my closet. I was like, this could go to a lot of people. So then I started restyling the things that I hadn't been wearing for a long time. And then I eventually discovered Fashion Revolution. So they're an organization, and they are the ones that it was created after the factory collapsed in Bangladesh. And so they started a whole movement where they said, you know, as someone who buys clothes, you can ask brands, who makes my clothes? So that was the question. So you could, you know, on social media, you could post and tag your favorite brands and ask them, who's making my clothes? And that created a whole movement that's still around today, where people still reach out to brands and say, but what are you doing? Who's making my clothes? Are they okay? Are they being paid properly? Like, what materials are you using? Because at the end of the day, we're the ones buying the clothes. People don't know that brands are very afraid of us, because when you buy something, you're putting money into it. If you realize that what they're doing is wrong, they're gonna lose you. And when you ask a brand, like, where is this from? What is it made from? Like, who made it? They sit up, like, oh, something's coming. Someone also, like, I mean, we had a conversation when it comes to that, and now it's like every time we buy something, or even myself, actually, there is the label just behind that says exactly where it's from. And sometimes that certain brand, or I'll say certain products, that really shocks me to figure out. Well, it actually comes from Italy? No, wait, it comes actually from, you know, it brings a really awareness into the things you're putting on your body. Exactly. And, you know, science considers our skin as our biggest organ, because your skin absorbs whatever is out there, right? The cream you put on it, the material you put on it. So it's also like when you put clothes on yourself, you know, you're putting something on your skin that will seep into your body at some point. So it's also like, take care of yourself, you know. So yeah, there's so much. So for me, that's how I slowly started to change my habits.
Yeah.
And then when I started, I said, oh, it'd be really fun to create a blog and talk about this. And I was with my husband, Lucas. I remember this like yesterday. We're on the bus and I was saying to him, oh, I want to create a blog and like talk about it. He was like, oh, you should do it. I'll take the photos for you.
Oh, wow.
And we literally started, he would take the photos and I would find brands that were sustainable, doing things right. And I would like, invest, buy something or maybe go secondhand. And then we would take photos and then I started posting.
Yeah.
And from then it just grew and it just grew. And I started to realize that I could have an influence. Like I could also make a difference. So I started doing panels and talking about it as well, writing about it. And that's kind of what Style and Sustain is really.
Actually talking about that, if I can have Regie, if I can please have the photos that I've took, because talking about fashion and trying to recycle, right? This is where really what you're talking about. So some people don't really understand fashion and sustainability.
Yeah.
It's a long phrase,
it's a long one.
right? And so it basically means be able to take something that you have, but actually recycle it, make it differently, and be able to last it longer in a sense. So instead of wasting it or maybe just throwing away, as Amma just explained, to be able to ship it somewhere in Africa. So you have literally things like this. And talking about,
that's hard to wear
right
on a daily basis. But there are things
like that, right? So it's just some people need to understand really what is greenhouse gas. If you can elaborate that actually, because I saw that and I was like, I understand what it is, but someone out there doesn't understand.
Oh yeah,
what it is.
I'm not the best scientist, but I will do my best to explain this. These are emissions of gases that basically warm the planet's atmosphere. So our planet is delicate, it's beautiful, it has a balance, right? And the warmer it gets, the more natural disasters will happen. So we talk about like the ice caps melting. So that means there's more water coming through, and there are certain islands that might not exist in a few years because it's too hot, and there's like it when it melts there'll be too much water and it could cover those islands, for example.
Wow. Okay.
So to keep it simple, there are gases that are released through our production practices. So whether it's like the extraction of oil from the earth, or like how we produce clothes in factories, etc., that warm the planet's atmosphere. And the warmer it gets, the more detrimental it is to the environment, but also to different species. So we've all heard about extinctions. We've all seen the polar bears barely having any ice to walk on and things like that.
Yes.
So, on a bigger picture, that's where it leads. And the thing that people don't understand is that the places in the world that are going to be most impacted are the places who are the places who are the least to blame for what is happening.
Okay. Because
The Guardian came out with a very interesting article where they said 100 companies are responsible for 70% of those emissions.
Wow.
Yeah. And in those companies are like the big oil companies, so the BPs. They're the ones constantly extracting oil from the earth. So that's how bad it is. Like you can count 100 companies and say you guys are the reason why this is happening. So I also encourage people to not feel guilty as individuals, but inform yourself. There are organizations, associations like Campbell. I think it's called Change Campbell. I'll send you the right details, but they fight against the fossil fuel industry, and they're asking them, you need to be held accountable. Yeah, we don't need to dig for more oil. We can go into a green transition and use like
them Arabic countries where they really go for
it. But even the UK, they go for it as well. So, and then they're finding it in Africa and in other places, and they're going for it as well. So it's important. But also, I think what I celebrate as an African woman is that we come from cultures that are naturally sustainable. So for me, when I started the magazine, I started to see the ways in which my culture as a Ghanaian, I was like, oh, we've always been sustainable. So let's take the fact that, all of us know a tailor. there's if it's your auntie, if it's like you know someone, you can take fabrics to, and they can make your clothes for you.
Okay.
For example,
Yeah.
you know, and the idea of who makes your clothes, it's actually a very Western mindset. It's like you don't see the person who makes your clothes.
Yeah.
But I know that growing up in Ghana.
Yes.
I knew
It's
the
probably
tailors.
my neighbor.
Oh yeah, it's my neighbor, it's my aunt, and like I can go and get something made. When I get something made, it's made for me. So I have confidence in it. We have girls struggling with self-confidence because brands are creating weird sizes, and it's like your body has to fit what they create.
Oh, you're gonna have to tell them that. Yeah.
And it's like, no. You know, we live in a cultures, or we come from cultures where someone will make something for you that celebrates your body, where you're gonna feel confident when you wear it. And that's what I'm saying. It's like the mindfulness that comes in how we do those things.
I like what you just said right now.
Yeah, it's true. Like I feel very sad when we think about sizes and things like that in this Western world, because I'm like, nah, this should be fitting me.
Yeah.
Why am I going around 10 stores? Or if I like, oh, the jeans are weird and I have to find it here and I have to, it just doesn't make sense to me. That's not what the experience of clothes should be. There's other practices, for example, in Ghana, we call them the Oye Adiye.
The wonder.
Oye Adiye.
Nice. What does that mean?
They do things well.
Okay.
And these are, back in the day, they're tailors. They walk around the neighborhoods. They have their sewing machine on their head, ringing, and they will literally provide like clothes making services.
Lovely.
So you can like call them in, and they'll come and like fix your top or do something for you. And now they sit in markets, and like in the markets where we receive a lot of the secondhand clothes, people don't waste them because Africans are so resourceful and we're so creative. So when it comes in, people are upcycling.
Yeah.
They're like resewing. They're like creating brands. They're like doing all these things, and that's all happening in one space. So it doesn't even go to waste when it comes to a crowd.
This is why.
Like, yeah, you can use this.
Yes.
And that's the cultures that we come from. So the solution has always been there. Like in Accra as well, in Ghana, we pass on cloth.
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah, we pass on cloths.
Yeah.
From mother to daughter.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
That's true.
Yeah. Because
very true.
Because we value the tradition of clothing. You know, I got married. My husband got me cloths. I'm like, I'm keeping these, and I'm gonna pass it to my daughter.
Yeah.
My grandma gave cloths to my mom and my aunties. So we come from cultures where we already do those things, but we've been told that it's not the way to do it, and it's cooler to have all these new things and buy new. And I go back to Accra and I'm like, no, keep seeing your tailor.
Yeah.
Keep making clothes that fit you. You know, keep being resourceful. Keep being creative with what's given to you, because that is true sustainability. It's the fact that we're resourceful with what we have. And
you know in who you are investing in.
Exactly.
You know, that's
you're giving your
very,
money
very,
straight.
You know, like if it's your sister, you know. If it's like your neighbor, you know where your money's going.
Yeah, exactly.
When it comes to us, it's a situation.
The CEO of Zara is one of the richest men in the world. In the text, he's like in top 3, at least top 5. And that's where the money is going to. And that CEO makes like, I don't know how many times the amount that the person that's making the clothes makes. And how does that make sense? Because he doesn't do anything. Make sense. No. He doesn't even know. He probably doesn't know how to sew a button. But here he is making all that money because we decide, you know,
to invest.
Yeah, to invest. So you said it. That's the thing. Even in the UK, you can find places where it's a small brand. Yeah. And you see the person struggling. They're trying to create their little collection, their little label, support them. Yeah. Because that's where you want your money to go to.
And this is why I encourage, or not even encourage, but I do admire the Jewish community.
Yeah, because
thinking about it, they love to support one another, to invest in themselves. Yeah. That basically the money is going around among them. So apart from what you just said and how you see in the world right now, if you could tell a young girl today about especially what you've learned and how this light has literally opened your eyes, what would you tell this young girl? Like, you know, how you know, what is the impact? Not even just that, but my actual question is, like, if you had to leave this world tomorrow, the thing is that people don't understand how life is really, really short. And this buy is also to be able to give all my condolences to the family of this young girl who died in Canada. And I believe is everywhere.
I saw her, the Congolese girl.
Yes. Her name literally just came out of my head just now. It's crazy. But she literally has left us, you know, just like that, really young. And what she was doing is to be able to enlighten the world as well, according to what she knows, the word of God and so forth. And then there's so many people who are doing so, but there's others also still unknown and still in the dark when it comes to so many things. So now you have found this light, if I may say this. And if you had to leave tomorrow, what is the three keys that you would love to give someone, or what is the impact you would have to leave behind?
I think, man, the first one has to be to search for God in spirit and in truth, like really truthfully. I think sometimes with religion it's tricky, because we tell people there's a way, there's like rules to how you can connect to God. And I think what God wants is this very raw, like you're really looking for me. And I think once you align yourself with that, and for me, once I aligned myself with Jesus, I felt like, okay, everything can flow from there. So that would be my first thing. I know we live, especially in the Western world, we live in a world where people are not very religious, or they don't grow up religious, or, you know, people feel like it's something they can toss aside and it doesn't matter. But you know, their spirits are always searching. When you meet people here, and I'm like, man, your spirit is like hungry and searching. And I think the first thing I would say is like just go on that search, that hunger that God places in us when we get to this earth to find Him. Like chase that. Chase that. Look for that. So
that's number one.
That's number one. Two is don't follow trends. You are unique. You are created unique.
Can you do me a favor? Can you tell the camera so that you know they can really see see as you're speaking?
Second one is you are unique. And you're created unique. The world works in cycles and in trends, and it can give you the illusion that you're just a part of the movement. You're just here in the cycles and the trends, but you're not. Like, you are not. You are so unique, and you're here to actually break through the trends. You're actually here to be a showstopper, to stop something from turning into something that doesn't bring light, like you said. You know? So that's my second one. I think don't just follow trends. Find your uniqueness. Find who you are, and sometimes it can be as simple as through your clothes. That's what I found. I was like, oh, this simple thing has actually shown me that I am unique and I can make a difference. And third, find people, surround yourself with the right people. Man, I have learned that. It did that for you.
It did that for you.
With the right people.
Yes.
Because it's tough out here, and you need encouragers, you need accountability. You need community, you need faith, and you just need to find the people that you can plug yourself into, and who will plug into you and like create something bigger, because also we're not meant to do life on our own.
Absolutely.
And if you try to do it on your own, if you become this individualistic culture that they're teaching us, it's lonely. And that's why we have a crisis of loneliness in the West. People think they have to be individualistic. And it's like, just surrender to the fact that you need people.
You need people.
I'm like, I need my husband. I need my friend. I need you. And I'm not ashamed to say that I need people. And no one should be ashamed to say that. So I think that would be the third one.
My last one is when it comes to believe. Right. To be able to go into this field of fashion and turn it upside down, turn it around, basically, not seeing it just how others are seeing it. Have you ever lost faith?
Oh, yes.
Or, you know, along and how did you brought it back?
many times.
Yeah.
Many times, because at the end of the day, these brands that I was talking about, this world, it's still going, you know, they're still producing too much. They're still mistreating people. We're still impacting the environment, even though we know that this is not something we should be doing.
Yeah.
But again, the hope is found in community. I told you I need people. It's when you talk to someone that, you know, aligns with you, agrees with you, sees where you're going, and they say like, I'll come with you. Let's do this together.
Yeah.
And then that's how you find that there's hope and things build. And change in the world never happens in a big, showy way. It's always in the little places where people are thinking differently. And that slowly becomes the norm.
Yeah.
So I think that's very important to remember, and to not always look for immediate results.
Yeah.
Just know that it's a journey, it's work, and lean on people. That really helps me to not give up. If I feel demotivated, I go to an event and I talk about sustainability. Yeah. And suddenly I'm like,
you keep on just boosting yourself. I like that. And this is what I actually bumped into this quote, and I would really would like to read it to you. I believe I told you that in the beginning. And so this quote really uplifted me, and I couldn't believe that this is the person I actually wrote up. All right, so I'm going to mention the name of the person towards the end, right? It says, the world is not the most pleasant place. Eventually, your parents leaves you, and nobody is going to go out their ways to protect you, right? It says, unconditionally. Wow, to protect you unconditionally. And you need to learn to stand up by yourself and what you believe in, and to pardon my language, to kick some ass. Guess who said this?
Who said that?
Queen Elizabeth II.
Really?
I was really shocked, you know. And what I retain in that, and what you're saying is that, like, you need people, right, in order to stand on your feet. And not just that, but you need God, as you just mentioned. And that's why really I do appreciate the fact that you are voicing it out, instead of, you know, keeping it down the low and thinking like, you know, I'm gonna die by myself. But also do not forget to stand on your feet and be able to change the world, as Amma is trying to change, not like trying to take a huge step ahead, but taking step by step, you know, believe in what you're doing, believe in what you are, where you're going. And all this is important, and to know your purpose is very, very, very important. So important. Either way, you're gonna swim in this ocean and not know exactly where it's going. And the ocean is huge.
Yeah, big world.
So we're finishing one word as an influencer that you are today, not the influencer, but the influencer. What would you say to the people who are following you today?
Wow. I mean, I love that quote. I feel like that said everything. It's hard for me to beat what Queen Elizabeth has said.
She's the queen.
Exactly. So I'll just realign with that. I think life is hard and it's tough, and I mentioned my experience and like losing my parents quite young, but I feel in me the need to
hold it close to you.
Yeah, I feel in me the need to still say that we're not alone. And I'm going back to God because I have to, because I just remember being 9, having lost both of my parents, and I remember the day I felt Jesus say, like, this is hard, but I will walk with you. If you let me, we'll do this together. And that changed my life. Yeah. And I was like, oh, wow, okay. Like, I may have lost this major thing that's so important, but God stepped in and was like, I knew this was going to happen, and I've got a plan. Stick with me, and we can do it. Yeah. And that changed everything. So I has to go back to that, because I think too many people feel alone, and we're not. If you allow God, you're not alone. And I think, I know what she said was harsh, but for me, I'm like, nah, we're not alone.
We're not alone. I like that. I like that. This is the end of our show, and I really wanted to thank you for giving me the honor to have you. I remember when I brought you the subject, the world, and you were like, whoa. Yes, right? and I was going according to what you were giving me, and I felt like this subject would touch so many people around the world, and I hope that this really has touched you, not just you but your soul. And please share it around the world. Etincelle is really about to acknowledge where you came from, the struggles you went through, and you came out of it. It wasn't easy, but someone took you out of that place, and for you it was God. Your struggles when it comes to your parents, losing them, and someone, maybe for you is something else, maybe for you is cancer, maybe for you is so many things. But when it comes to the world and you need to know your place, you need to know who you are, and you are the light of the world. So you can change things if you only decide to do so, and stick by it no matter the wind, the tempest, whatever may rise.
It all gets better.
Exactly.
It always does.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I hope that you were, uplifted by the testimony, by what we just spoke about. Fashion, don't let it te surnager.
Don't let it take over.
Exactly. So we're going to meet again next week, same time, 8 o'clock. Please don't be late. And we have surprises, right? So stick in, and we'll see you very soon. It was Gracia Susuzande, and take care of yourself. Bye-bye.